Hello and welcome back to another episode of Nick Tiffany's Movie Reviews, coming at you online and in print format at nicktiffany.com, podcast form, wherever you get your podcasts, and on all the social media apps at NT Movie Reviews. Today we've got a few new 2025 releases, as well as a couple TV shows that I wanted to hit on. CinemaCon has just been wrapping up this week in Las Vegas. Kind of a more of a studio and executive style conference setup that they do, and all the major production studios are bringing some sizzle reels of what's left for the year, how much money are we going to make at the box office, what stories are you planning. Good time, I'm sure, for investors to help get eyes on things and kind of get a general reaction to how people will respond to the movie. Sometimes they show entire films there. Superman, they had about a 5-minute clip that they showed that they tagged on to the Minecraft movie now. A few films show themselves in their entirety. I remember Flash debuted at CinemaCon a couple years back, and it was like word of mouth coming out of there was not that great. So I think some people have kind of backed off from doing that. But in the midst of all of that, I'd be remiss if we didn't mention that the world lost Val Kilmer, unfortunately, due to his illness. He'd been fighting, I believe it started with pneumonia for a while. And so Tom Cruise was at CinemaCon the other day with Mission Impossible, but took a moment of silence to kind of honor Val Kilmer there. I know that scene in Top Gun hits especially hard now, I'm sure, for Maverick. Just what an incredible actor. What an incredible breadth of films that he had covered in his career. There's still some like the Doors film that I haven't watched, but from Heat, playing Doc Holliday, there's so many. From Batman, Val Kilmer, it was just a cut above the rest, an interesting persona in Hollywood who, of course, now I'm starting to see pop up in all these little fun gags and clips and seeing a different side of him. But certainly an acting powerhouse that's going to be missed there. But moving into some of these 2025 releases, I'd say this week was kind of 1 for 3 in terms of stellar and maybe not so stellar. But we'll start on the maybe somewhere in between. Wolfman, directed by Lee Winnell, was something that I was looking forward to, as we hit, I don't know how many 100 years now, whatever the statute of limitations is on how you could tell certain stories. We're going to have an influx of Dracula movies, just like we had all the Winnie the Pooh and whatnot. And once these things become public IP, and how you can use them and what you can tiptoe around is always very interesting. But Lee Winnell, you may know, directed the Invisible Man with, oh gosh, I'm going to say the Scientologist and the Handmaiden, because I can't remember her name right now. Elizabeth, why can't I remember it? This is too much movie knowledge sometimes. It's too, there we go, Elizabeth Moss, because she's Elizabeth with an Elis. I'll remember that. But Lee Winnell did The Invisible Man back in 2020, I believe, which I was a huge fan of. And I seem to be on an island for that for some reason, because this Invisible Man was kind of rebooted for modern times. How are you going to be invisible? Is it a potion, or is it really going to be some cool nano suit? I was a fan. I liked it. Some people didn't. But you may also know Lee Winnell, written on a number of the Insidious films, horror background for sure. So tackling Wolfman, this whole idea of werewolves. Always been a fan of werewolf movies. More often than not, most of them are kind of disappointing one way or another. There's not so many good werewolf films that I could jump to where it's like that movie's either so frightening or just so transformative, whatever it might be. Weirdly enough, the werewolves, as cool as they are, for whatever reason, Dracula seems to have the better movies, or the more intriguing movies. And so with Christopher Abbott, Julia Garner, I was like, okay, I'm interested to see how this could go. And basically, the son grew up out in the woods, I think kind of, somewhere in Oregon. There's always been reports of a mysterious creature out there. And, you're made to believe some things might be a bear. Maybe there's something else out there that was trying to get him. He grows up, moves to the city, wants to be away from the woods. His dad's still out there, lost in the woods for all we know. Gets a note saying his dad dies. He's got to go back and get the belongings. So bring the wife and kids. And of course, going up into the middle of nowhere with no service, you don't even know where the home is. There's bound to be trouble. And of course, there's some creature out there that starts attacking them. And one way or another, a wolf man, it makes its presence known. And I would say there's more emphasis on the man. There's a slight wolf aspect to the creature. But truthfully, through transformations, through other moments, I was really hoping for something that, I don't know, just delivered something that was a little more frightening. I'm sure they were working within a limited and confined budget, so I get that. But I feel like the effect that the scares could have, or the stakes, or how rapidly someone is changing and their physiology is just being altered. I like there are moments like that that can be really fascinating that I didn't feel like we got to spend a lot of time on. So I mean, Julia Garner does a good job playing the frightened wife, helping the child, a badass in her own right, though at times. Christopher Abbott, being a protective father, meaning a couple different things, spending time and making sure they're safe, but going out to try to keep things safe. You go back and forth with like, dude, don't be sticking your neck out too far because things can get really bad for everybody. But after watching this a couple weeks ago, it's kind of I remember bits, a couple of them vividly. There's a couple interesting moments for sure that stuck out, but by and large, I was like, yeah, this feels like kind of a January, February dump it Blumhouse release. Blumhouse, I don't want to say they're getting sloppy, but kind of feels like A24 almost in a way where it's like, okay, you guys are putting out a ton of movies a year now. You started from the bottom and now I don't want to say you're abandoning what made you great, but you're just going either so half-assed or so like in A24's case, they're like, we're going to do anything quirky. Any quirky story we're going to do. And I know that they've done that for a while, but actually that's going to kind of carry us into our next film here, The Death of a Unicorn, which is one I believe played at South by Southwest. I remember seeing some clips about it, some minor chatter about it. Paul Rudd, Jenna Ortega, Will Poulter, kind of a comedic tale, dark fantasy, horror. There's definitely comedic. Essentially, Paul Rudd's character is driving out again into the middle of nowhere, some northern territory where humans don't inhabit. He's going to go settle the estate for this man he's worked for years. They've just got an ungodly amount of money, and so they've been spending it all trying to find any way to keep him alive. Him being Richard E. Grant's character. And so on his way, he takes his daughter. You kind of understand, okay, the mom, I believe, had passed at some point earlier. Their connection's not great. Of course, it's like high school girl who does not want to be here, college girl maybe, kind of looks high school, but you're like, okay, don't want to be here, dad. They're arguing. There's no service. Eventually, he swerves because he hits a horse, or you think it's a horse. And until they get out of the car and start looking at it, there's like weird purple blood. But there's also a horn attached to this animal, like a unicorn. And they're already running late. It's a weird moment where, the daughter's transfixed by it. She kind of touches the glowing horn. She's starting to see the secrets of the universe, maybe. Paul Rudd comes to finish the job, to put it out of its misery, and they put it in the back of the car. Bob's your uncle. We get to the place late, and wouldn't you know it, the unicorn somehow is still alive. And of course, Richard E. Grant, who's got all the money in the world, who has this incurable cancer, will try anything. So let's use some blood. Let's use some horn dust. Wouldn't you know, it's helping me age backwards almost. I'm getting healthier. And therein lies the problem. Now we gotta hunt some unicorns down, and comedy ensues, and some drama and some action. I don't know. I just have to say, watching this movie, it was not a chore. You know where it's going. You know exactly what's going to happen. Everything is kind of telegraphed. If you've seen a movie like this before, I don't want to say like you've seen them all, but I don't know. Maybe I just went into the film not with a defeatist mindset, but I was like, okay, I'm hoping for something different here. And at times it's quite funny, and at times it's also incredibly on the nose as it talks about politics or it discusses wealth and inequalities and what people are willing to do in order to create a longer life for themselves, what morals you're willing to abandon. And it was fine. I've seen better performances from Paul Rudd. I've seen better performances from Jenna Ortega. There's a couple fun ways that people die, but by and large, it was kind of like, this would have been an interesting short film, maybe, but I don't know how much money A24 put into it, but, they bumped up the marketing gimmicks. They had bumper stickers at the screening to get out. It just, I don't know. It's at the point where, like Blumhouse, an A24 film, I feel like for a lot of people, used to be one of a couple things. It's a 4 or a 5, and it's something weird and unexplainable, or just so out there and bold and daring. Or it was like a strong 1 or a 2, where even though it was bad, it was like at least they were trying something so different and so radical here. Maybe it didn't work, but shout out A24 for giving a platform to this kind of thing if we're actually trying to tell this story. So I don't know. Death of a Unicorn. I see it playing festivals. All right, it's a fun time. It's a good break between maybe some serious movies, but I was kind of disappointed, to be honest. I was hoping for more. did not get it. So that's why I had to double dose on easily my favorite film of the year. I went and saw it twice. It's still playing in limited release and expanding wide across the country. Bob Trevino Likes It. This is a film written and directed by Tracy Lehman, a Texas filmmaker. I emphasize that just because, she's from Houston. She's from the H. Went to school down there, has done a lot of filming down there. Last year, she was up in Seattle for the Seattle International Film Festival, bringing this film after a successful bout at the South by Southwest Film Festival, winning numerous audience awards wherever it goes. It was a film that, so last year when I first saw it, I don't think I could attend the screening, but I got to do an interview with Tracy. So I got to watch the film through a screener at home. Had missed some of that audience interaction maybe, but I was like, thank God I watched this at home because I was an absolute wreck. I'm like, we're talking blubbery tears. I'm getting up to blow my nose multiple times. It was just like messy. So many heartfelt tears as well in this story. Bob Trevino Likes It is based off of Tracy's real life experience with her own father. A father who did not always show up for her, who abandoned her at times, who would cut communication off, check out when he didn't want to be a dad, who would almost put this burden of, do you know what it's cost to raise you? Do you know what, you need to be a little more thankful to me, reeling from the loss of his wife, her young mother, whether it's being absent or just, not around. There were problems with drugs, all sorts of stuff. But granted, some of the story is also influenced by the lead actress, Barbie Ferreira, who kind of brings some of her own experiences into the story. And what they create is this tale that I feel is so pressing and so immediately easy to associate with, I guess, for anybody who lives in this social media generation, this day and age of, wanting to be seen, wanting to feel like you belong somewhere, wanting to feel like people care about you, wanting to feel like, you matter on so many different levels. And you look at how, and the film really looks at how we look outwardly for those things, especially on social media, calling out into the void, posting whatever it might be. You could be vague booking, talking about something. I don't really want to talk about what's going on, but I need some people to be interested. I need some people to know I'm kind of going through it. And, some people can look at super attention grabbing posts and some people can look at really genuine cries for help. And then there's everything in between. And at the core of it is people feeling like they want to belong, feeling like they want to matter to somebody. And so after her dad goes cold turkey on her, Barbie Ferreira as Lily Trevino in the film, tries to seek him out on Facebook, finds someone who doesn't maybe look like it's him. It's another Bob Trevino. And she reaches out and asks, hey, are we related? Is there, could you be related to someone on my mom's side? And, here's a grown man on the other side who, weirdly enough, not weirdly enough, because this story is literally just about humanity and the lives that we all live. He works, he doesn't really have a family of his own, and kind of notices and understands that, hey, maybe this girl doesn't have many people in her life. And hey, and this isn't like a weird meet someone on the internet story. It's more of the friends that you make or the connections you make with genuine people. And yes, it's kind of strange that it happens at first through the internet. It's always a weird, like, yeah, I met this person on the internet and now we're best friends, or somehow this person knows more about me than people I've known my entire life. And it's hard not to get like emotional and excited when talking about this movie, because there's so many moments while watching it where I think audiences are just going to connect with so many of these different characters in the film and can empathize with feelings of, I've gone too far. If I made this odd, if I pushed things, am I a burden to people now? Barbie Ferreira and John Leguizamo are just phenomenal in this movie. And I don't think it was until watching it a second and then a third time that I really connected with John Leguizamo's performance and just how much of it stood out, how dry it can be at times, but just how down to earth, how rooted it is. There's so many moments, and I'll be honest, I've read a couple things from people as far as criticisms or, there's their virtue signaling. She's got a friend who's black and disabled, but she helps take care of her as a job. And then it's like, I read shit like that. That goes in one ear, goes in the eyes, and it's just forgotten. And I'm like, that's not even anything that's happening here. Or talking about manufactured scenes to try to make you cry. I'm like, I laugh at those, because if some people view the world this way, I feel sorry for them if they can't find little moments of joy, or if they can't let themselves have a moment of just like absolute sadness and heartache in the theater. Bob Trevino Likes It is one of those movies that justifies, at least to me, like why I spend so much time watching movies and talking about movies. And I freaking think back to Begin Again, directed by, was it John Carney, who then would go on to do all these other musical movies, Sing Street, I forget the one he did for Apple, but Begin Again was originally going to be called A Song Can Save Your Life. When it was playing festivals, the name was A Song Can Save Your Life. And I almost wish they would have gone with that title, because I think that's something that people can really resonate with. And I think art in its many forms is something that is life saving. It's why we still watch these awards shows. It's why we follow popular characters. It's why when you get home from a hard day and you want to escape for a little bit, for 30 minutes, you could go watch TV, you could watch a movie, whatever it is, and you can kind of live someone else's life for a little while. And sometimes you want to escape and forget that all life is similar, or that we all struggle, and then sometimes it's a really nice reminder to know that you're not alone out there. And the things that are burdensome to you, or the things that you think, I am the only one who struggles with this, or I don't know how to get help for this, I don't even know how to talk about something like this. And then you go see a movie like Bob Trevino Likes It, and it just pours out of you. And there's so much love in this film, in the writing, in the directing. Tracy is just seriously the nicest and sweetest person. This is just such a cool moment to see someone's hard work, someone who absolutely deserves to have this film seen by so many people. It's a really cool thing to kind of watch the process of how the film gets acquired and then released, and getting to watch so many people share a really similar reaction. It's a cool, I love doing what I do because of moments like this, because sharing a film that has the power to open people's eyes and change a little bit inside them should be part of the goal. I'm not just here to share good movies. I'm here to share life-changing movies, or movies that help shape the way that you look in the world a little bit, because more often than not, I feel like people need an example in their lives to really start to understand something, to look at something a little bit differently. Bob Trevino Likes It. I could not say enough great things about. Undoubtedly, this is the best movie of the year. I have no doubts that this movie is going to end up on my best of the year list. Please go see it. Drive as far as you need to see this in a theater. It is so worth it to experience something like this with other human beings who will be connecting with and feeling the same things that you are. Just, congrats to Tracy. Congrats to the cast. The film is unbelievable. I've just been waiting to talk about this movie for so long. So I'm really glad that it's out. And, we'll kind of end things. We'll continue the high note. I just wanted to touch on a couple TV shows that I've been watching. We'll get the superhero one out of the way. I'm watching Daredevil Born Again now that it's on Disney Plus. Kind of reached the point in the season, I want to say, with 1 or 2 episodes left, where the original team, who was kind of working on some of the story, choreography, and the background of the original Netflix Daredevil show, which, this kind of is a soft reboot of in some ways, they are now out of the picture. Like, we've kind of hit the point in the season, 6 or 7 episodes in, where a new team's taken over. Season 2 is already in filming. I gotta say, I've been a pretty big fan of this season so far. For every worry I had of Disney Marvel's going to be putting it on streaming, are you going to lose some of the edge that you maybe had with Netflix in terms of what you could show graphic wise? I think there's always an internal worry of like, okay, Disney's going to be handling this. Is this just going to be Disney-fied? Like, are we going to actually see Matt Murdock whooping ass and taking names? Or is it going to be too quick to see? I don't know. There are moments where I wish Disney didn't. There's a lot of moments where I wish Disney didn't own everything. But I've been pleasantly surprised throughout the season, on numerous occasions, watching some of the violence or some of how Matt Murdock just explores himself. And in some ways, this reminds me of maybe like an Amazing Spider-Man 2, in the sense of we're getting a lot of time with the mask off. Daredevil's kind of been retired. We're focusing on the lawyer endeavors, and it's really interesting to watch the struggle within Matt. And there's so much good he could be doing on the street, but it comes obviously at a personal cost. He wants to focus on the good that he can do, not being a superhero. But then when Wilson Fisk is going to be mayor and running for mayor and taking control of things, how long can you let corruption last? And there have been more than a few poignant episodes in this series that just, again, are very Daredevil less. He's hardly in the suit. But these episodes show you more of who the character is. They give, I think, a really great roundness to the character as a whole, and you have to see what he lives with and what he can stand versus what is innate inside him. The great scene with the Punisher that he's got with John Bernthal at one point. Really looking forward to seeing where some of that goes, especially as the Punisher is going to kind of get his own one-off little Disney special movie thing, kind of like the Werewolf at Midnight one they did or whatever that was. So that's, I don't know, another interesting side of like Disney should have done that instead of giving full shows to so many other characters. But hopefully they're going to learn. But Daredevil, Born Again, been a fan so far. And the other thing that I've been watching, it's only 3 episodes in now. Anybody in the film world who's anybody, everybody's talking about this, at least on film Twitter. In my corner of the world, the studio on Apple TV is blowing up. It's Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg's look at Hollywood as a whole, production, what it looks like from the top down as far as how films get made, what stories are we trying to tell, what does a day on set look like when you've got bumbling idiots coming in trying to control the art. I am so fond of this TV show already. It's kind of nuts. For someone who loves the movie making process, who is tuned into so many behind the scenes processes, I've got so many film books and behind the scenes photo books, and you just read so many stories about on-set experiences or how a film gets made, and you understand at the same time that yes, you do need to make money to have the studio to continue to make films. How much art do you sacrifice for dollars? They're approaching the show in such a great way. The comedy is full throttle. There's so much anxiety in this movie too, though, that I have felt, and maybe that's just being a part of some of these worlds. The anxiousness with how things are handled or the spinelessness of certain executives or how people want to tiptoe around talent. There's just so many brilliant moments in this film that are just shining a spotlight for maybe the uninitiated on what getting a movie made in Hollywood looks like. All these deals that you're doing behind the scenes. We got to meet these network and executive demands, but then we also want to greenlight this passion project here. It's freaking awesome. The cast is incredible. You've got Seth Rogen, Catherine O'Hara, Ike Barinholtz, Catherine Hahn, who's just incredible. Dave Franco's popped up so far. My boy Zack Snyder's going to be in there somewhere. I'm sure we're going to have an episode on director's cuts and visions. I can see it now. They have got something really fresh and really cool going here. Kind of filmed in that retro future look where it is present day. It's 2025. The way everyone dresses, the way the houses look, it's like, get me to Hollywood right away. Immediately after after one episode, this was okay. I'm in. Is it Wednesday yet? I'm ready for the next episode. And the studio is awesome. So keep an eye out for that. Go watch Bob Trevino first and then watch the studio. Thank you guys again for tuning in. I know I didn't go see the Minecraft movie. I know I didn't go see Jason Statham's Working Man. I will watch both of those at some point. March Madness took a little bit of precedence this weekend. And someone who grew up playing the alpha of Minecraft, I don't know if this is my Minecraft movie for me. I don't think I ever envisioned Jason Momoa and Jack Black being the vessels of that story. So I will watch that in my own time eventually. But it's breaking tons of records for a PG rated movie, for a video game adaptation. I don't know if anyone saw this coming. This is the Warner Brothers. I hate to see him get a win. But glad for some of the parties involved there. But next week should be better. I tried to go see Magazine Dreams with Jonathan Majors, which really was like in theaters for a week in the Seattle area. So I'm gonna wait to see when that pops up on VOD. But next week, I believe we've got the new Alex Garland film, which the name is escaping me now. Warfare. Very, very curious about that one. I think I'm seeing that on Wednesday. So very, very much looking forward to that. Anything Alex Garland, I'm here for. So definitely tune in next week because I imagine that could be a pretty important film at the very least. that we'll be discussing. So as always, thank you guys. You can find me at NT Movie Reviews on all social media networks, podcast platforms, and on YouTube. Have a great weekend. Go see something good and let me know what you saw.